everybody. It's basketball, and we just don't have anything interesting to talk about, do we, Andy?
Well, we have less interesting to talk about today than we did yesterday because we had some decisions last night, especially in that Knicks Detroit series. That one that ended. We've got one that's forced a game seven. No two better words in sports than game seven.
You know, when you're right. I mean, it's going to be a war. I mean, the Clippers at the Nuggets. It's going to be, and then of course we got the game six with the Rockets and the Warriors. Um, Personally, I looked at this game. I like the Warriors to win it, but man, they're like the money line is like 226. You got to lay 5.5. That's tough. I mean, Thompson is really putting a lot of pressure on Steph. The open looks aren't there for him. They're having trouble. They're going to have to do a better job of maybe having somebody else bring the ball up and let him the two run some screens for him to get open. You know he's deadly when he has an open shot. He's deadly when he doesn't even have an open shot. But
I wonder if it might not be consideration, and if you like the money line with Golden State, maybe you parlay that money line with a big favorite in baseball.
You could do that.
That's the way to play it, rather than you don't have run lines in basketball as far as that goes. There are some places, I guess, that do offer adjusted point spreads like they do in the Super Bowl, where if the line's -3, they give you prices, if you want to lay 7 or take 10 or whatever at different different juices. But I could also see, I think it came out after the game that Golden State, once they didn't make a run in that third quarter after being down big time at halftime, they just basically conceded the game. So they rested up.
I do think they did that. Yes.
Yeah, I think Draymond Green basically came out and said something to those effect that we're going to try and make a little bit of a run, but we're 6 minutes into the third quarter and we're down by 15. We say let's give the reserve some time and we'll live to play game 6 at home. So right. I think that might have been part of it. I don't know that anyone's surprised about it because, the game didn't mean all that much to Golden State because they knew that leading 3-1, they've got 3 chances to wrap up the series.
Exactly.
And they know, they know already from game 1 that they can win in Houston because they won that opening game. And of course, they've got the 2 wins that they had at home. And of course, now game 6 being at home as well. So,
the one thing they did by not showing up for game 5 was they gave Houston an awful lot of boost to their confidence. And that is always dangerous.
And they may have given them a little bit more of a boost by not really giving a great effort and making Houston think that, we're a lot better than we thought we were after those last couple of games.
So we're talking about we got the Halliburton dad. He's not going to attend any more Pacers home games. I don't know if that's too severe or not, but then you got the Pacers, the Pistons coming. They're obviously a pretty good team. They got a lot of choices to make about which players they keep, who they pay, what they trade for. I mean, all the teams have those adjustments to make. And of course, Brunson had his 40 points. He hits the crazy 3 at the end. But they have not done well playing the Celtics. The Celtics have owned them.
And by the way, the other thing with the Knicks, and even in the game last night, they allowed Detroit middle of fourth quarter, down by 12 points. All of a sudden, it's a tie game. And the Knicks aren't going to get away with that, that sort of lazy defense against a team like Boston.
Well, they're not of course, not too many teams are as deep as Boston, the Cavs, or the Thunder. But the one thing about Tibbs, he does play his players a lot of minutes, and at this time of the year, you might see a lot of breakdown and fatigue. So that's a big issue.
And by the way, that was a criticism throughout the second half of the season that a lot of the players and a lot of the observers, not just in New York, but throughout the league, said that he's really, running his players really, really hard. and expecting them to get 30, 40 to 42 minutes a game or whatever it was that he was giving them, it takes its toll. The deeper you get into the playoffs, the wear and tear that you've accumulated over the past 6 months becomes evident.
Absolutely. It sure does. We have the Warriors playing the Rockets. Rockets are the Warriors are 5-point favorite, and now I think the price is up over $2. If you're taking the money line, you could look at the totals. I had the Denver game under last night, and that did not work out very well.
Yeah, as did I.
But one big 3-point play would have made a difference the other way. It was that close, but not to the closing line. You needed 2 of those, so it was. And when they took off early, when they got the over 100 points in the, I think they were like 109 in the first half. It looked like either if they didn't really slow down, it was
going to be tough. Surprised that it ended up that close to the 212.
Yeah, you're right.
It looked like it was going to be in the low to mid 220s.
Then on Sunday we have a very interesting situation, especially with what Mark Lawrence brought up the other day. The Cavs won their series by 122 points in their 4-game sweep over Miami. That has not shown up well historically for those teams going forward. And they're an 8-point down to 7.5 in a lot of places against the Pacers. Now, the Pacers they're not chicken liver. I mean, they are pretty damn good. They have athletes. They can put up points. They just beat Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's a tough team, even though they're shorthanded. But the Greek is there, and that makes a big difference. I don't know, Andy. Is a letdown possible here for the Cavs because they won too easily? I think that's what that shows.
Well, I think that I think we sort of talked about it on Wednesday in the ATS podcast that 2 things occur, and that is everybody saw how easily Cleveland won that first series, and OKC the same thing, and so there's going to be a little bit of added penalty, I guess, in the line. In other words, this line might have been 5.5 or 6 if the series went to, let's say, 6 games with Cleveland and Miami. And at the same time, how much of a factor will the rust be that they won't have played in several days? Now, I guess because of the way these series ended up, that there's not as much time as you could normally have with the Indiana series ending early as well. But you could have a team that wins 4-0, they could be sitting a week to 10 days before they play their first game in the next round. That's not going to be the case here, but that could also have a bit of an effect as far as how Cleveland approaches this game. I'd like to, make a case for taking the points with the Pacers because I do like them. I normally, and again, Cleveland, to a certain extent, Boston, and certainly Oklahoma City, they were just so far and away the best teams in the NBA this year. Whoever you want to rank, group all 30 teams. Those teams are 1, 2, 3, whether it be OKC, Cleveland, Boston, or some other thing. And then there's a nice drop off to whoever you will want to put number 4. So I normally, in series that would be normally more competitive because the gaps wouldn't be that great, I usually like to play the road team in game 1 and hopefully get a cover out of that, not necessarily a win, and then maybe sit out game 2 and wait till they go to the location either with the road team up 2-0 or the series tied 1-1. And of course, if they lose game 1, then I decide, do I want to come back with them in game 2? In this series, I might actually sit out game 1 as far as the side goes. I may actually look under the total. I might think that the rest may have Cleveland playing very intense basketball against as a defensive force for the Cavs. And maybe this total, which is around 229 or so, might just be a little bit too high.
I haven't really decided what to do on the total side of this, but I actually like the dog here. I think I believe that when you look at the games they have played and the players that were in the games when they did play them, I think the Pacers are going to come to play. They're going to be very motivated. And I do think that the Cavs may be a little too confident. There's a benefit to playing a tough series like Detroit and the Knicks. Go down to the wire, make it's really tough. It's got, but because now you're battle tested. Cleveland's not battle tested, not with the way they demolished the Heat. No, the Heat demolished themselves as well, because there seems to be dissension on that club right now. But that might have been too easy. In the public, but here's the thing. Even though everybody saw that, there has been sharp money on the dog. Take an 8.
If I were going to play a side, that's the side I would play. By the way, one thing to keep in mind, because I was talking about rest and everything, these teams each clinched their series one day apart. Cleveland won 4-0 on Monday. And Indiana won its game, up 3-1, so they won in 5. They clinched it on Tuesday. So there's only a 1 day rest between what the difference between these two teams have. And yeah, Cleveland might be a little bit overconfident because their win came, that was that 55-point win in their clinching game against Miami. Pacers, they went overtime, so they were tested. They might be a little bit more game sharp in game 1. And of course, the fact that you've now had, let's see, what did we say, Tuesday, the fact that you're going to be playing 5 days later, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the extra 5 minutes means absolutely nothing for the Pacers.
No, it doesn't, and that's a 5-day rest. That's pretty good. I mean, it's still a lot. So, I mean, it's a great. And then the Knicks are going to play Boston. Of course, Boston's going to be about 8.5-point favorite in that game. And the history between the Knicks and Boston is not good for the Knicks because they really were pressured by Detroit, who's a very good team, and Boston was a little bit of pressure, but not much. But they handled the Knicks all the time. I mean, 9 straight victories. I mean, Boston but they're the champs. There's a reason they're the champs. They're very deep. They got a lot of, I know Holiday and, White and all that. They have so many weapons. It's going to be very difficult for the Knicks to deal with them. The weapons that they have is just overwhelming. Very tough. Very, very tough.
The concern I have about the Knicks is not necessarily totally related to their difficulties against Boston. It's the fact when they played Oklahoma City this year, when they played Cleveland this year, they just couldn't compete with them. They could not beat those teams. So it's not just Boston that they're playing. They're going up against one of the 3 best teams in the league. And I believe, I'm not positive because I don't have it in front of me, but I believe the Knicks were 0 whatever they played, 0-6 or whatever against those top teams. So, they've been a fine team, but now they are, it's like the old horse racing analogy. They're going from a $5,000 claimer into an allowance race.
Yeah. Yes. I'm not going to downgrade the Pistons because I think they're really not only an up and coming team, but a team that's already arrived that just doesn't have the experience yet.
And they're fun to watch.
But they're very fun to watch. But, we can talk about the Lakers and their mess, and Redick comes out and says the team needs to be in championship shape. All that bull. And they need a roster adjustment. They need a big down low. When you look at all these teams, the thing about the NBA, which drives me crazy, when you see these guys play in the playoffs, you're seeing the best athletes with doing amazing things against other great athletes. Mm-hmm. And it just, you don't see all of that in the regular season because they're pacing themselves so much. And
I think basketball, of the 4 major sports, hockey, football, baseball, basketball, I think, is by far the most demanding on the human body. Number 1 in baseball and football, you're not in baseball you're not exerting a lot of energy other than in the field in the 4 or 5 at bats you may have during the game. In football, you've got offense and defense, so basically you're playing a 30-minute game if you look at it that way for the offense and 30 minutes for the defense out there. In basketball, you're playing 48 minutes, and most players will play, let's say, most starters will play 35 to 40 minutes a game, and you're pounding your knees up and down, going at full speed. You're in there making physical contact with guys who are 250, 280 as far as that goes, and then obviously height and all that. I've always felt that basketball is the most physically demanding sport, and very often you're playing 3 games, and well, not as much now. 3 games in 4 nights, 3 games in 5 nights, a little bit more, and you still have a number of back-to-back games. It's the most demanding game, and that's why I think when you're talking about an 82-game schedule, and now especially when you're talking best-of-7 series throughout the playoffs, all the extra games that some of these teams have played over the last few seasons, when you count playoff games in there, takes a toll. And I think that as a result of that, these teams have to use that, let me use the phrase, load management during the regular season, because you want to be as fresh as you possibly can in April, not as important back in October.
Because it is such a physical game, and I agree with everything you just said, and you want to preserve the athletes, and you don't want to wear them out and hurt them and everything, and so you have them around at the end of the season. Maybe the regular season's too long.
Or maybe, and I don't know I would want this. Well, of course, too long means they'd have to cut back, which means that they'd have to give up revenue and things like that. But what if they ended up shortening the game to 10-minute quarters instead of 12-minute quarters?
That would probably help a little bit. No question.
That's
go back.
That's 8 minutes of games. That's 640. I think 640 something minutes over the course of a season. That's several hours over the course of a season. Which is the equivalent of several games.
What is? So, I mean, when you look at baseball, they got the starting pitchers 5-6 innings. They got them on pitch counts and stuff. They're trying to save their arms. In basketball, you got the load management. Everything has changed. I mean, we grew up in an era where if you took Larry Bird out of a game, he'd go over and choke the coach.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want a game off. Magic, all those guys, they wanted to play. So they got paid less to work more, and now these guys are getting paid more to work less.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of upside down when a lot of things in our society are upside down. but you get Reddick saying, "Oh, we got to be in championship shape." I mean, okay, well, you got one guy that doesn't play defense at all, and you got LeBron who's 40, 42 years old, whatever the hell he is, and he's amazing.
You have 82 games to get into championship shape. You don't need to play your starters in a key playoff game 24 consecutive minutes in the second half.
That was it's obviously either a guy that doesn't know how and will never know how to coach, or he's a smart guy that made some very dumb decisions.
I think it's the latter, because he went to Duke. That's not exactly, it's known for academics as well as athletics.
Well, they obviously brain power is there, but not everything goes back to what's called street smarts and logic, and but common sense. But now we have. Let's see, we haven't talked about the Clippers and the Nuggets. I mean, I'm looking at the game the other night. Now I know the Clippers won the game. They did not cover. They either pushed or lost with the 6.5 numbers that were out there. But when you look at Denver, you're getting a lot out of Westbrook. I mean, where the hell did this guy come from? For what? The other night he scored 21 points in 26 minutes, and then last night he brought some energy. He always brings energy, and he's plays hard. He's always played hard.
He's a veteran who's had a very solid career, not quite Hall of Fame career, but a very good career.
And then you have Murray, who did not look to be healthy coming into the playoffs. It looks very healthy right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You got Doncic. I mean, who's I should say not
Jokic.
Yeah, I lost the name. Who's one of the best players in the world, if not the best. I mean, he's been, an amazing. And then you have Gordon, who's really stepped up and played well. I mean, on the other side, you got Harden, who's still Harden. I mean, he gets that step back jumper, and he can drive to the hoop with anybody. And you got Kawhi, and you got the role players around them. I mean, this is a very, very difficult series, and it has been. And now the Clippers are again going to Denver, mile high elevation, and they're favored again. which
Well, they opened the favorite. I'm now they opened the 1 point road favorite. Now I'm showing Denver pretty much a 1 point home favorite, which is the opposite of the game 5 scenario where Denver opened the 1.5 point favorite and the Clippers went to the slight favorite. That's why I think we were all on Denver the other night. It's a similar situation because it's basically a pick 'em game if you're laying one, and of course the game obviously can't end up in a tie. So the question is, do the factors that applied the other night in 2 games ago in when Denver was a small underdog, do they really apply here? Is Denver perhaps not getting the kind of, well, I hate using the word respect, but that's pretty much the one that applies, or are they not being given enough credit for how they play at home?
I don't think they are, but I really, it's a very, very difficult game to handicap because, I mean, we've seen enough of both teams, and it really is going to come down to the breakage and the randomness of how they play in a one game setting, because this is a brutal.
And we've seen each team win in blowout fashion, albeit on their home courts. We saw the Clippers do it, I think, in Game 3, and we saw the Clippers, the first game there, and I think we saw Denver do it in their last home game in Game 5.
I know we have to close it out. I know you said you had to be out by 9. We're 9:06, so we
okay. So we can go a little bit further. That's fine.
Well, what do you have you want to add?
Yeah, I as much as you sometimes want to play a game, there are games that just handicap as being so even and are priced that way that maybe sometimes it's either you don't have anything pregame, or you wait for the opportunity with what we have in the modern era to get involved during a timeout or whenever you sense that, okay, I've seen what I want to see, or I didn't see what I had hoped to see, and you get involved maybe, at the 8-minute mark of the second quarter or something. And I think that this game between Denver and the Clippers shapes up that way. It may still come down to the last moment, but coming into this game, I don't see any true value. I mean, you take a look at the fact that both of these teams, I believe in the regular season, had identical 50 and 32 records, which is an outstanding record and basically equates to the fact that these teams are so evenly matched. And we've seen it throughout the series. We've seen several close games. We saw the opening game where the Clippers had the big lead, blew it, lost the game in overtime. And then we've seen the 2 blowout games that each team has had. So I suppose you could say the same thing that applied in Game 5 applies here, that maybe Denver is a little bit too short priced. But then again, and you pointed it out the other day, the altitude and everything in the fourth quarter, maybe that has some advantage that at least should be perhaps built into the line. That doesn't mean it's the right side to play, but it should be perhaps this line should be perhaps a little bit more like 2.5 to give Denver the natural advantage that they have, not of the home court, but of the comfort with the altitude. That's a true that's a true advantage that is beyond just the fact that you're playing at home. You're playing in an environment that is different than most other environments in the league, and studies have shown that it does have an effect on you. So I think my approach will be, I'm not going to do anything pregame. I'll see. I may get involved during the game. I may not get involved in the game, but I'll probably be entertained by the game.
Well, I'll tell you what, you bring up a lot of great points there, and you want to talk about the best sports to live bet. God, the NBA is just great for that.
Yeah,
I mean, you got these streaks.
All the runs.
What did you say? The Knicks game, they were up like 12, and all of a sudden it was tied. I mean, and that was.
I remember I think it was 101-89 or 103-91, and then it was 103-103, as I recall. When and then who was hit the 3-pointer.
Then it comes down to a last-second shot, a miracle shot. It's now. We're going to cut this off soon. I'm going to go with the Pacers plus the 8. I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but I think they're going to put up a hell of a battle. And that's my free play for this and for this show. And I also want to bring up on the 16th, the WNBA will be starting. And I personally had a great return on investments at the ROI in the WNBA last year. Now, there's a lot of new young ladies coming out of college. There's been a lot of trades. Everybody talks about Caitlin Clark. I mean, she's on, the Fever. They got a new coach there. They got some new players. They did keep some of the main ones they really needed to keep. But you got Paige Breckers come into the league, and there's a lot of things going on. And the bettability and the betting handle on the WNBA, primarily because of Caitlin, last year went through the roof. And it's not going to be any different this year. It's going to continue to grow with the addition of Paige Breckers and some of these new kids coming out of college. The sport is growing, and we don't have load management. They don't play as many games as the men do, but they play hard. So there's no load management. They play hard, and you get pretty much a true effort every game, which is very important for me to not have to look at that. Who's going to be in the game? Who isn't going to be in the game? For the most part, they're all in the game.
Yeah.
So from a betting standpoint and a return on investment standpoint, the WNBA was at the top of my list last year. And, every year you look at what you've done and accomplished. And like in the NFL, I'll give you a perfect example. 69% on totals, 57% on sides. Hey, what do you? Okay,
that's a moneymaker. Any way you look at it,
you make money either way. But would you rather the 69 or would you rather the 57? You make money either way.
A lot of people would choose the 69 for many different reasons.
So what I'm saying is I'm going to be doing, and I don't know if you follow the WNBA much, Andy. I'm not sure.
I am going to be following it more this year. I'm a little bit more up to speed on the league.
Well, that is a show that we will be doing. So we're going to be adding in that. And then I want to say this. John Herdoon did a great job with Greg on the Kentucky Derby. Go to Proline TV, YouTube, go Proline TV, and watch the video that they did. It's excellent. John's an excellent handicapper. Greg knows horses. He does a great job, not only in production, but he knows the game as well. The horse selections are there. The analysis is there. And that's this weekend, guys, tomorrow. So, and today I think they have the Oaks, which is the female horses. And they have, I think there's a video on that as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there is. So go check it out. Go to the site and subscribe, and make sure you make the bell ring when you subscribe. This little thing goes, you click on it and click all. And when there's something, it'll come right to you, tell you we have new videos.
Yeah, I think as soon as the videos are up, Greg sends out the emails indicating that they're up, what the content is, and the link.
Okay. All right. Anything you want to add, Andy?
I'll just throw in the play that the one that came to me for the games coming up in the NBA, and I'm going to look under the total. It's gone up a little bit in the Indiana Cleveland game 1 on Sunday. I'm showing that it opened in a lot of places at about 227.5. It's up a couple of points to 229.5. And I'm going to look for that to be a combination of a little bit of rust, a little bit of trying to feel each other out, get a sense of what strategies are working. And, maybe I look under in the first half as well. Okay.
Well, have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday when we do our shows. And everybody out there, good luck. And I'm Jim Feist. This is Andy Iskoe for Proline TV. And we hope to see you next week. And if you have any questions, comments, anything else, send them in, because I love answering them. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Jim.